Hello, everyone. So last day for our Bridges to Better Business program. My name is Angie. I'm the program manager for the Business Center at Guelph-Wellington. And we are joined today with some representatives from 2H Media who will be here to talk about video and your business, so video marketing and that whole thing. We do have, just as a reminder for those of you who are interested in attending, today is our 1-year anniversary event at City Hall. If you haven't registered, we do have some spaces available. Please feel free to just shoot me an email and I can add you to the list because we just need that list sent to security ahead of time. Aside from that, we look forward to having you. If you have any questions or comments, please throw them in the chat. I'll be monitoring both Zoom and Facebook throughout the session. But welcome, Aaron, and welcome, Matt. I'll pass this over to you and let me know if you have any questions.
Hello, Angie. It is very, very good to be here. My name is Matthew. I'm also joined by Aaron. Aaron, he's over there on my screen. We are from 2H Media. We are a Guelph-based marketing agency. And today we're going to be talking about the role that video plays within essentially your marketing as a business. We produce a ton of video content of a variety of topics that go on pretty much every platform you can think about. I am going to try and make this a little bit more interactive just because video is such a broad topic, and I know I'm going to put some people on the spot. Who is already using video in their marketing strategy currently? Yes, just if you are, please let me know. If you're not, no. Okay, so we got some no's in chat. Are there any yeses? Is it all no's? Because no's fine answer. No's a good answer. If you are, that's great. If you're not, I'm gonna just take it from a little bit more of a beginner level. The more you give, the more you give, the more you get in a presentation like this. So we have some yeses. If it is a yes, just let me know what kind it is. Is it shot on your iPhone? Is it going on TikTok, Instagram? No's are pretty straightforward. Some on your iPhone, some yeses, some TikTok. There's no wrong answer here. There is no wrong answer here. Okay, you got a YouTube and social media. Okay. So video is kind of a Facebook, Instagram Shorts. Great. Okay, great. So there's a little bit of expertise. There's a little bit of just beginning. That's all good. I want to kind of break down some misconceptions right off the hop. As you can see, from a small business standpoint, shooting video doesn't need to cost $1 million. You don't need to have $50, $100, $500 million worth of camera equipment and own a studio and have sound booths and hire actors. And you don't need to do that. Yes, it would be cool if you did have budget for that, but it's most likely not required. The industry as a whole is moving probably faster than anyone can keep up with it. So platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, the amount of video being consumed on those platforms is just astronomical. Video has kind of invaded every aspect of our life. So now like all of the major brands have streaming platforms. There's more content being created now than ever. And from a small business, that can obviously, from a small business perspective, that can obviously seem a little bit daunting. And it can be, and that's very true. It is. For most small business needs, all you need is a modern smartphone, iPhone, Android, whatever, something that's been built in the last 2 years, maybe even 3 years, and you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. So let's start with some really basic stuff. Video essentially for advertising purposes, and I say advertising, but what I really mean is awareness. So that would be your Instagram, your TikTok, your YouTube channel, where it is public facing. Great. So you're going to shoot some video on your phone and it's going to go out into that ecosystem. It's going to get consumed, hopefully by as many people as possible, and hopefully you have some interactions on that. Some quick stats on that. I'm just going to give you some stats. 72% of customers would rather learn about a product or service by watching a video. That was at the beginning of 2022. So 72%. So you might already do a great job of explaining how your product works. You might have great technical information, manuals, diagrams, pictures of and step-by-step of instructions. 72% of customers want it in a video format. 88% of consumers spend more time than average on a website watching video. So if you're selling something a little bit more complex or something that you need to actually explain, we obviously want people to stick around on your website a little bit longer to actually capture that content. 88% is a huge number. So time on page is very important. And then 64% of customers are more likely to buy a product specifically online after watching a video. So normally what this is telling me is video is a pretty good idea. So yes, we can control all of the text and all of the imagery and all of the other things on a website. I really just want to show off what we're doing. So if you think about this from a consumer perspective, if I was to walk into a store, I'm going to walk into the store, I'm going to have all of my senses. I'm going to be able to touch the product. I'm going to be able to taste the product potentially. I'm going to ask for a sample. I'll be able to smell it. I'll be able to feel the quality of it. I'm going to be able to feel the fabric on my skin. I'm going to be able to do a whole bunch of things to validate whether or not I want to spend my money on this thing. I get all of them. Online, or to get someone into the store into the first place, I have one sense. I have the sense of sight. That's it. I don't have anything else. I don't get to touch it. I don't get to taste it. I don't get to do anything else. I get to look at it. So we want to engage that sense as much as possible and provide as much information as possible. And normally, video is the right way to do that. There are a few video types that are very, very, very common for small business that you can easily shoot on a modern phone really, really easily. I just had a couple of consulting sessions this morning that we were going over. One of them is specific to your social media, so Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We want you to start generating content about during your process. So if we think about how your product is made or internal to your company, you have to do 50 steps from here, from A to Z to get your products either made or your services actually ready. And this applies for both products and services. We want to try and look at that process as a whole. Like how does a customer come in all the way to them being happy? There's a lot in there. I would love for everyone to have essentially an SOP, a standard operating procedure around documenting that process. Here's how we make, we work with a lot of brewing companies. Here's how we make the beer. Here's how we find the ingredients. Here's the ingredients going into the boilers. Here's the water heating up. Here's the bottling process. There's a whole bunch. I can show all of that information off. I can show everything, start to finish. The big players in most industries cannot do that. It's a competitive advantage to small business to be more transparent with your audience. And people love it. They want to know how things are actually created. They want to know that they're helping a small business in Canada. They want to see the behind the scenes. Everyone likes seeing behind the scenes. There's entire TV shows that show just the behind the scenes. So if you can give customers a little bit of a glimpse of behind the scenes during your, I'll call it manufacturing, or during your delivery, or during how your products come to be, it's a massive advantage that most businesses don't take advantage of. To do that, we have a few tools. We have explainer videos. An explainer video can be anything. It can be how to use the product, how the product came to be, how the founders thought of the product in the first place, what the product looks like, the product roadmap looks like in the future, anything in terms of explaining. We can explain our process. We can explain how the product works. Those videos perform very, very well for an audience that's already engaged. If they're already engaged, that how it's made, explainer content is awesome. So we think about, do we have a lot of buyers that are repeat customers, or do we have a lot of people that we're always trying to fight for a new customer? Those explainer videos kind of are in both camps, but definitely more one than the other. Testimonial videos. I would love to see happy customers. I would love to see someone actually saying something good about the business. So yes, written reviews, Google reviews, those play a key portion as well. But I would love to see video content there. So anything in terms of a testimonial video, it can be from an industry partner. It can be from a peer in the industry. It can become from a customer. It can come from an employee. It can come from yourself. Anything there to actually testify in terms of either something was good or something was different or something was actually very unique. Unboxing. Unboxing is probably one of the fastest growing categories, and that's just setting the expectations for once the product has been delivered. So like, what does it come in? Does it come in flat pack cardboard? Does it come in, what is the experience like working with you? So types of video, and again, these take very little time and energy to shoot. Set your phone up, put it on video mode, put the box on the desk, on your desk or your table or whatever, stage the environment a little bit, press play, and practice it 500 times until you're happy with it. Really, really, really straightforward. The more you can actually get comfortable using your phone, the better. Most of these social platforms, so I'll limit that to TikTok and Instagram, so specifically Instagram Reels and TikTok. The audio component is less important because you can always throw like a trending song, a trending clip on top of it. So you don't need a whole bunch of audio equipment. If you're doing something more complex, like a testimonial video, an explainer video, something that you're actually having instructions for where people need to follow along. Normally those videos are a little bit longer, so they're probably in the 2 to 4 minute range. The audio with video is very, very important. You are going to want to control essentially the environment as much as possible. You're going to want to make sure that people can understand you. If the audio is bad, I don't care how good the video is. I've got a stat here, 91% of people will not watch a video with bad audio. 91%. So you could put a ton of effort into the video portion of the content. If the audio is bad, the audience is gone. So if you need to speak on camera, it is very, very important that you can control your environment. That means great. We're not hearing heavy construction. We're not hearing someone wash the dishes in the next room. We're not hearing doors slamming. It's clear. We're not hearing like a bunch of muffled noises with a microphone against your clothing. And that just takes some practice if you're doing it yourself, and that might mean you need to take a bunch of takes, but very important, do not underestimate the audio component. If it's not needed, great. You can just throw, I don't know, your favorite song on top of it and the trending music, and that's great. So how the heck, so Aaron, I'm gonna ask Aaron here, how can you determine, and this might be a loaded question, how do you determine when you need an explainer video? And I'm going to go through this list of all the types. An explainer video, what products are best fitted to having explainer videos within your social media channels, your website, maybe your ads, your email marketing? Explainer videos, when do they best fit?
For sure. There's a lot of definitions for explainer video. So why don't you start by saying what you need?
Yeah, so that's great. So an explainer video, and that's great. An explainer video can mean all kinds of things. That's great. So let's talk specifically about instructions, explaining how a product, if I have to put a product together when I get it.
Sure. I mean, that really explains itself. Any product that has that level of complexity where it's not just plug and play, you can't just pull it out of the box and start using it, is going to benefit from that expanded content. We talk about optimizing your online presence a lot, and as positions and companies are becoming harder to fill and people are moving online more for resources, expanding the tools that exist in your online infrastructure to either replace traditional salespeople or expand on like print documents that might be provided with a product is becoming way more important. And so anytime you've got a product that is more complicated than, you say, an article of clothing, where you don't need to give people an explainer video on how to button a dress shirt, but But as soon as you get into something where there is some setup, there is a process for using it, those explainer videos are going to be super beneficial as both a value-added service to help your customers get more out of the product, and potentially as a sales tool to help people that are selling the product explain how easy it's going to be to use and how many resources are available to make that process better. And that could be all kinds of products. Like if you're selling oatmeal, doing an explainer video on the process of preparing that food item can have a ton of value for anyone that isn't already intimately familiar with the process of preparing that product. You know, I spoke to someone who doesn't know how to make rice the other day. If your company is selling rice and you can put out a video on how to actually prepare that product, that's going to have a lot of value to people who aren't already familiar with the process. And then it becomes a lot more obvious for anything more complex. You know, we work with a company that makes vehicle attachments, and that requires some assembly. You have to know how all the pieces fit together. You need to know proper instructions for traveling with the product, proper instructions for setting it up, tearing it down each time. So anytime where there is that process element to a product, an explainer video walking through the process can be a huge asset. Doubly so if the product is more expensive. Like the more expensive your product goes, the more information you need surrounding it. I see a question in chat about that. Where are these videos meant for, Instagram or the website? Website's the best place for these things to live. YouTube channel is a great resource as well. Whenever we produce video content, no matter what the size of the project is, no matter who the client is, they get two cuts. They get two cuts regardless of what they've asked for, regardless of what they're trying to do, because it's the correct way to do it. So if we're shooting a 2 to 4 minute explainer video, or even like an hour-long deep dive into something, like regardless of what the scope of that video is, we also provide a 20-second cut. We create a 20-second cut of that video. There's essentially a trailer for the larger segment, and that lives on your social media channels, because that's about as long as you can get away with in the social media sphere. Anything longer than that, anything more in depth, you're going to want that to live on your website or on YouTube.
I'm going to put just I know that this question is probably right there. I'm going to just put this in chat right quick. That is the length by platform that is essentially a starting mark. What you'll notice obviously on this list is like YouTube 5 to 15 minutes. You can have hour-long videos. You can have 99-hour-long videos there. LinkedIn, the same thing. These are guidelines. The longer you make your video, the less of the video it will be watched. So that not as many people will watch it from start to finish. These are just some platform-specific requirements. The goal is to get it as short and sweet as possible. So if I can save, if it's a 10-second video, I want that hook to be on second 1. I want someone to be right engaged. I want maximum engagement as soon as possible. There are things that go outside of that scope. So if it's an explainer video and there just happens to be 21 steps that you need to follow to create the product you're making. So I'll use Lego for an example. If I was to show an explainer video, creating a Lego set, there might be 100 steps. I don't want you to skip steps in order to say, oh, well, I've only got a minute. I want there to be the full example of an explainer video because someone is specifically using that video to get from start to finish. If it's if it's a more sales related video, I can skip a lot of the details because I just want to pique someone's interest. I don't need to give them all of the context. So if you're ever Googling or trying to search up what's the best time or how much time I can use for videos, yes, there are platform specific restrictions like that I just put on the screen. So like Twitter will not allow you to upload more than 45 seconds. That's just or actually 2 minutes and 20 seconds for Twitter actually. But if you need to have a 5-minute video, because that is just the amount of content it takes you to get through an explainer, you can't skip steps.
Just for the sake of clarity, I want to circle back on that definition of what an explainer video actually is.
Sure.
What we've been talking about in the last few minutes is really a guide video that walks through a process.
Okay.
Typically, an explainer video is more surface level. So an explainer video is going to be what your company's all about, what your product is, what the product is actually intended for. It's a more general overview of whatever it is that you're selling, and that can apply to a wide number of videos businesses. Pretty much everyone can benefit from an explainer video walking through what the company is all about, what the product or service is for. Which is why I directed the question back to you and going like, specifically, if we're trying to say which industries can benefit this, what type of video are we talking about? So like those industry specific ones where it depends on the complexity of the product, we're really talking about a guide video more. An explainer video is going to apply to pretty much any business.
It's interesting that you say that, Aaron, because my very next thing here, and I'll put that in chat again. And I'm just taking some details right from YouTube. So YouTube is giving me some insights into their algorithm. This was taken from them at the beginning of the week. Aaron is mentioning the ideal explainer video length, again, 60 to 90 seconds, because you're sticking on the surface. If it was a longer video with 101 instructions, obviously that's going to be as long as it is. So Aaron's example is absolutely right. Even YouTube explains it as an explainer video, not a guide video. The guide video can be any length. Right on. Yes, and it's weird. You're not going to get like, definitions are important, but like there's not like going to be a penalty if you like load an explainer video or a guide video up on YouTube and it's the wrong length. There's nothing there. But to keep things simple, video comes in all kinds of again formats based on what you're trying to achieve. Normally, like Aaron mentioned, you can have a snippet, a cut that is going to do a bunch of things that leads to the larger video. So very similar to a blog, you are going to have a full blog with all of the writing, the 1,500 words with all of the pictures and all of the illustrations hosted on a website. And then you're going to probably take some small excerpts of that blog and put those on social media, or put that out in your email marketing, or put that out wherever you're in print. And that's going to drive back to the full form, the full length content. So there is no like what's better, short form or long form. They work together. Sometimes long form is not needed. Sometimes short form is not needed. But most of the times you're going to have a short snippet that leads into something that's a little bit more intense. So even if I was to put a 7-second ad, an unskippable ad on YouTube, I'm still probably going to want to send them to something that's a little bit more long form so I can get more details. This has been true since like essentially newspapers were doing this way back when. I'm going to capture a short headline to capture your attention, and I'm going to have the full article underneath it. I'm going to display the short little movie trailer with the explosions and the car going off the cliff to get your attention, and then you're going to go to the cinema to watch the 2-hour movie. It's the same thing for this. So a big mistake that we see that small businesses are making is they're putting out a ton of short form content, a ton of it. If you've got reels, you're producing reels like crazy. You're producing little Facebook shorts. You're doing the short form, and there's no substance behind that. So after the click, so yeah, they're engaged. I like what I'm saying. After the click, there's just nothing happening, and that's where those longer form pieces of content can be a little bit more challenging to capture because they're more complex. So in 10 seconds, you can shoot your own product video. You can have an image over, you can do a top-down view of you actually mixing your cookie batter up and the cookies are going in the oven and everything. And then that's great. That's going to capture a lot of attention because who doesn't like cookies? And then it's going to hit your website or it's going to go somewhere else. And there's not enough content there to actually help complete the transaction. So we always looking for the short and the long when needed. There's a right place for both short and long form content. So like the long form content embedded in your website through a YouTube channel or Vimeo or whatever platform you're actually using to host video, your short content can just live on your social media. It can just live there. It can be available whenever someone stumbles upon it. But you can. Video is very, very versatile. It should live within a few other areas of your business. You can put a lot of that short form content directly onto your Google My Business. You can use it within your email marketing campaigns. There's an amazing tool if you are running Google advertising right now called the Performance Max campaign. It's very, very, very affordable. It's a high functionality in terms of what Google's actually giving you there, but it requires a video. So if you are planning on shooting something like this, you definitely have a variety of options to use the content you're doing. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. If you're shooting something that's short or long, there's a lot of places to have it injected. And it's okay to use a video on your website and the same video that is on your YouTube channel. And then they're seeing a small snippet of that on your social media. That's just building consistency that, yes, I'm in the right place. I understand that like the company, like I don't need to have 40,000 videos with no overlap. I can have a through line. That through line is very, very important. So we've kind of covered the explainer and guides. Most brands need that stuff. It depends. I mean, clothing brands can get away from the guide stuff, but even the explainer videos, it's like, great, explain the fact that you use, recycled materials in your products. Explain that competitive advantage. And again, how it's made with that is really, really important too. There's a few other big ones that normally get missed, and that's testimonial video and interviews. We call it a talking head segment. It's someone actually on camera, just having a conversation. Some of those are perfectly designed for a little bit more long form content. So like podcasting with the video element, to have that in there. It doesn't require anything more technical. It's just like, great, you just need good audio. Very important, very, very important to have some meat sprinkled around all of the little things. Aaron.
Yes.
Without there's no perfect answer to this, I know. What are some industries that would be best suited for actually having interview or testimonial style videos?
I mean, you're going to keep asking me which industries can make use of video.
All of them.
Back to like
all of them.
It comes at a complexity level. The more complex your product or service is, the more benefit you're going to get out of talking head segments. But like the most globally applicable one that's going to apply to everyone is testimonial videos. Pretty much anything you can do, if you can get someone on camera who has used your product or service and is happy with it, talking about how positive that experience was, that's going to have a ton of value. That's great social proof. It's really hard to compete with that. Outside of that, in terms of explaining your company values and your mission, it really depends. The more corporate you go, the more value it's going to have to actually explain what your brand values are. That becomes much more important. The more large scale you go, and then depending on how important your actual values and your mission are to your core business concept, it's going to become more important as well. So there's a lot of e-commerce stores out there where the messaging behind the product is more important in many ways than the actual features or quality of the product itself, whether it's fair trade coffee that's all about giving back to the communities that are actually farming the product in the first place, or shoe companies that have a lot of ecological spending. There's all kinds of situations where companies are really building their value proposition around the social impact of what they stand for, rather than saying, oh, we have the best widgets on the market. It's now we have great widgets that are also socially conscious. And when your message becomes that little bit more complex, explaining your company positioning becomes very important and very impactful. I see a question from Angie. Yes. When do you need to hire out for producing the video? Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, that came from Facebook. I just didn't want to double up on the audio.
Came from Facebook. Gotcha. Matt, do you want to kick that off? I'm just searching for a resource for Sarah, who came in with the next question. Do you have a resource for taking better photos with my phone?
Yes. So the question. Perfect. Yes, we do have something for you, Sarah, for that. So Aaron is going to find you something. The question, I'll repeat it again, is when do you need to outsource for video? It's not as easy as you might think to determine. It really comes down to complexity, and it's hard to really determine, okay, what do I actually need for this to happen? If you're not tech savvy, so like this could be a very basic video, but if you're not tech savvy and comfortable, I'm going to say stay in your lane. You can hire someone, they're going to come in and they're going to work with you to produce all kinds of content, and then you don't have to worry about a learning curve, and they will absolutely take over for you. And that happens all the time. That happens all the time. Stay in your lane. If it's not something that you want to invest in yourself or get better at, or if you're essentially unsure, yeah, talk to an expert. Let's just say you are a little bit comfortable. When is it the right time then to take it to the next level and have a higher production value? It depends on the need. It's completely needs driven. So when you're hiring any business, and again, us, anyone, there should be a clear goal. What is this video designed to do? Who is it for? What is it designed to do? What should the outcomes of building this video be? If you can't manage those outcomes yourself, like ensuring that you're getting the right look and feel of something, or if you don't have the right staging equipment, or you don't have the right location, and it's just you and a camera, you're probably going to need to hire an expert. An expert is going to do a few things better. One, scripting. The scripting is going to be way, way, way better in terms of having a director coach you on camera 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 takes until you are actually saying and performing the right things. So some people are just naturally gifted and they're great on camera and they can get it out in 2 takes, and hooray for you. Other people need a lot more coaching to get there, which is the norm. We have a great time doing that, by the way. We like coaching while the camera's rolling is awesome. Some of the best laughs and best interactions happen when the lights are on and the camera's rolling. But if you're not confident in front of the camera, you're probably going to want to have a professional do that as well. Additionally, there's going to be some industry standards. If you take a look around your industry and you go, wow, every single person in my industry is just putting out absolutely great content, and that benchmark is just higher than in other industries, you're probably going to want to reach out for help as well. And also within your skill set. So if everyone's using drone footage in the real estate space, for example, and you don't have a drone license, sure, you could go get one, but you're probably going to want to talk to a professional and make sure that you can actually capture the things you need to be successful in that. Again, it always goes back to goals. What does the video need to do? If the video doesn't have clear goals, the director can't do what their job is. The person in front of the camera is not going to do a great job. In post editing, they're not going to have a clear idea of what the video is supposed to be doing either. And then the likelihood of the video flopping is quite high. So having a clear set of goals and clear set of expectations, and understanding what the video is designed to do is pretty much paramount. Like, we're not talking cinema here. We're not talking like we're trying to convey a story that's going 90 minutes. This is most videos that you're going to hire a production company to do are going to be like 5 minutes or less.
Another question in the chat was, what tips could you please give for teaching online? They're a Spanish teacher and they'd love to improve this video.
Oh, that's a tricky one, to be
Yeah.
totally honest. We're not going to be able to give much feedback on that because it is so niche and so specific. So like, in terms of the actual video production component, it's going to be all the same advice we're giving everyone else. High quality audio, don't keep them too long, try to keep them engaging. In terms of actually like teaching specific, it's all going to come down to your audience. How familiar are they with the subject matter? How many steps you're going through? What examples can you show on screen? We do a lot of teaching online. We've got a YouTube channel full of guide videos. That's all we produce on the channel is instructions, how-tos. It's all online teaching, and we cut the fluff. We try to walk through concepts in as few words as possible, while showing off as much of the process on screen as we can. And for the most part, that approach works really well. But that said, we're teaching something really technical and specific, and it's one process that you're going to go through. There's not a lot of repetition involved. I've tried learning languages before. I'm not very good at it. And so I know from experience that there's a lot more work that goes into teaching someone how to speak a new language compared to teaching someone how to add an image section to their Shopify store. there's a lot more of a memorization component involved. You're going to need to share a lot more techniques for actually conveying the ideas. And in those cases, you know, get a basic video setup. Make sure your audio is crisp, make sure things are framed well, show as much visual content as you can. But 90% of doing that job well is going to come down to your content plan and your actual, like your lesson plans, just like if you were a traditional teacher, rather than anything specific to how the videos are structured.
That's a great point there. And it's a camera operator and a director are not going to make you an exponentially better teacher. Like they are not going to know how to teach your audience Spanish or any language. They're going to know how to produce good video content. So it's something where it's a great point that you bring up, because there's a ton of video online that's designed specifically for course content, whether you're teaching a language or teaching a skill or teaching how to do X and Y. The video is actually almost secondary in terms of like, is the teacher good? Is the lesson plan good? Is it structured in a way that someone can easily adopt it? Most film companies, like us included, are not going to be subject matter experts in your field. That would be like way too crazy. I'm sure there's one that exists, but I would be hard pressed to find a film company that specializes in helping teachers teach Spanish. That's going to be a hard find. But at the end of the day, that production company should be talking you through best practices. Talk a little bit slower. Like there's going to be things that they will help you do so that it performs better on camera. But at the end of the day, they're not going to fundamentally make the teaching course, you know, we're not making better Spanish speaking students. But it's a great question. It is a great question. And one more thing before Aaron starts, what they should do is they should apply a critical eye to say, like, they should be telling you what you're doing wrong. Like what is hard, what is confusing, where you're going too fast. They should be coaching you along the journey, but that still doesn't make you that's not going to affect your lesson plan. That's not going to affect how.
Matt, we've got other questions coming through, and we've got an I understand.
Oh, good.
That's the original question. So I'm going to move us along.
Right on.
Responding to Sarah's question, do you have a resource for taking better photos with your phone? I'm going to share an article we've written. Some of this applies to best practices in general for e-commerce photography, which can apply to, like, if you're a service-based business, a lot of these concepts are going to be true as well. The two things I want to call out specifically that we go into more detail on in that article are staging photographs and controlling the environment. If you're creating your own content, whether that's photo or video on your cell phones, creating a consistent environment to capture that content is really important. It's the most important thing you can do in terms of upping the quality. It's low-hanging fruit. It's easy to implement. That can be as simple as committing to what type of environment you're shooting in. And so the example I give in the article is, you know, if you're just selling products online, a white background might be perfect. Go and get a cheap light box, start capturing your photos in that consistent environment. You're going to have better results than if you're doing it like against a wall in your house. On the other hand, if there's a theme around whatever you're selling, try to shoot in an environment that leads into that theme. So if you're selling a food product, like a maple syrup or a honey, shooting in a farm environment with a consistent feel to the background is going to improve the quality of what you're shooting right away, whether that's video or film or video or photography. And on the other hand, like if you're selling power tools or something, shooting in a factory is going to be way more impactful than shooting in your home environment. Even going out to your garage, getting some nice like industrial looking shelving and background equipment to make it look like, oh, this is for serious professionals that are involved in their craft. Putting a lot of effort into the environment you're shooting in is going to be the #1 thing you can do to improve the quality of content you're producing on your own. And then investing in some good lighting to control the environment more is going to take it to that next level. So that could be a light box if you're just shooting white background photography through an e-commerce site. That could be some studio lighting. There's some great LED panels that are easy to adjust on the market these days. Godox is an excellent lighting brand that we rely on all the time. Their stuff's available on Amazon. It's cheap, it's reliable. Lighting your shots well is going to make a huge difference for photo or video.
Just as a note, Sarah did say that she does added in that she does home organizing. So it's all kind of environments because she's going into people's places for before and after photos.
Gotcha. So for home organizing, I mean, it's not rocket science. There's a ton of people taking amazing pictures of people's homes. Like if you look at any real estate company, they're all pretty much have this down. You're going to want to take as wide a shot as possible. Make the rooms look bigger, make the space look more open and inviting. That could be, if you're taking the picture on your phone, that could mean getting creative with backing yourself up into a corner and trying to capture as much of the room as possible. Turn on as much light as you can. Try to get really well lit spaces. They're going to look brighter. They're going to look more engaging. Everything's going to look better. Try not to shoot into the sun. So if you've got a ton of light coming from a window, maybe stand in front of the window and shoot away from it. Otherwise, it's going to blow out your entire image. If you can't control the environment because you're shooting in a lot of different places, I'd be looking at just positioning yourself within the room to try to make it look as good as possible, and then consider in time upgrading from the phone. If you're shooting real estate and location photography, in this case, home organization, getting a nice wide angle lens is going to do a lot of work to make the spaces look more engaging and look a lot bigger, which is just hard to replicate on a cell phone.
Yeah, and that's going to allow you to have a flash on that camera with that lens, and then it's going to give you more light control.
Here's
I see
a resource I found for interior photography.
I see two questions I want to respond to together because they tie in. Unfortunately, I'm not going to have an answer that you like for one of them, because the questions are recommendations for cheap or free editing software for audio/video, and then what do you suggest for closed captioning / subtitles for longer form videos, because YouTube's AI isn't terrible but also not fantastic. So I'm going to answer these questions together because they're both software questions in terms of what to use to edit video. I don't recommend a cheap or free editing software for audio video. I don't know a good one. We use Adobe Premiere Pro. I wouldn't go near any of the cheaper free ones. When I was first learning video editing many years ago, I played around in Windows Movie Maker, and it did the job for my most basic requirements in terms of cutting something together. But in terms of achieving any kind of professional level results, you're going to need professional level software. There is no getting away from it, especially once you start thinking about audio. There's no replacement for the tools that are included in the software packages. And the only one we support is Adobe. It's been the industry standard across numerous industries for as long as I can remember. There are a lot of other ones out there that people use. I don't know too many of the big like independent third-party video companies out there. The DaVinci is like massively popular for editing as well.
DaVinci was always used, but also expensive.
Corel Video Studio, I can't speak to at all. It's not something I've ever heard mentioned in a professional context. Some people swear by iMovie, Apple's editing software. But like generally speaking, you're looking at one of the big players if you want to get professional results. The one we swear by is Adobe. Bringing this back to the closed captioning question, Premiere Pro has phenomenal closed captioning capabilities. You click a button, it reads through your audio track, it generates all your subtitles, it can differentiate between speakers. Sometimes it needs some adjustment, but you have the ability to then go in and adjust the subtitles if it missed something before you export that on completion of your video, and then you can upload that exported file right into YouTube so that you have proper closed captioning included in your video.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've utilized a free one called BSDC. I don't recommend it unless you know tech a little, because it's really clunky. Adobe is 10,000 times better than it. So
there are some there's a lot of these times where you can't escape good tools. So I mean, there's a million stock image sites, there's a million free image editors, video and audio. That next level of complexity, it makes it much harder to find a cheap good tool, like even if it's an average tool. Especially, and that kind of goes back to that question, is when do you need to hire a professional? When there's a bunch of editing, like there, especially if you don't want to shell out. I think I mean, our Adobe subscription annually is in the thousands of dollars, and that's just because that's the work that we do. That might not be something where you're going to get any value out of as an independent business where you're producing not as many videos, so you can't stomach the software cost. And that's exactly where hiring a professional would come in.
Yeah, I mean, like getting right down to brass tacks and circling back on that question, as soon as you need something better quality that when you can produce quickly on your phone, it probably makes sense to hire a professional rather than trying to bring it in-house. Your equipment investment alone isn't going to make any sense for capturing professional quality content.
Yeah. Right on. I've never heard of Corel Video Studio. Sorry, Kaylin, just not something that I'm familiar with. Aaron, I don't think you're familiar with it either, but if you're wrong.
No, I already answered that one. It's when I was talking about the platforms. No experience with it, never heard of it, haven't used it in a professional context. I'm familiar with Corel Draw, can't stand it. Corel is pushed for being Canadian by a lot of people. I just like in any kind of professional artistic context, I don't think there's any reason not to use the professional tools that everyone else stands by. Limited exception is like Photopia is an amazing Photoshop clone that's free online. So if you're just doing like graphic editing, it's basically Photoshop. It works with Photoshop documents. That's a perfectly acceptable replacement. In terms of video and audio editing, no, I would stand by any of the industry giants. And then like, again, if you're looking for cheap or free, you probably don't need those professional quality results. So like, don't put that, like if you're either at a stage where it makes sense to hire out someone professional to do a really good job and knock it out of the park, or you're at a stage where you can get away with cheap and free cell phone quality, throw it together in Instagram, throw it together in TikTok, understand which one of those buckets you're in, and don't put a ton of effort into really trying to polish something if you don't have the fundamentals in place to do a really good job in the first place.
There's something that I want to go back to, and that ties perfectly in, and this is something that Aaron taught me, and it's when is design done, Aaron? When is the video done?
In terms of refinement, design is done when it stops generating additional value. So as soon as you find yourself making lateral movements, really finessing something to try and get it absolutely perfect, you're probably wasting a ton of time and by extension money.
So that goes directly into, if I'm just producing reels for Instagram or TikTok videos, there is a balance between the number I'm producing and the quality that they are. There is a very fine balance there going, if you spend an extra 3 hours on it, you will probably not yield this 3 extra hours of results.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then like, again, if you're shooting an explainer video that's going to go out on your website and go to all your purchasers and your salespeople, and you've got a large enough company infrastructure that something like that makes sense, take the extra time to make sure that video is going to be really good, because it's got to do a lot of heavy lifting. Going back to the Instagram example, if you're putting out 100 videos a week on your Instagram channel, you're just trying to stay on top of mind by hitting people with a ton of content, and it needs to feel organic. It needs to feel natural. You don't need to spend a ton of time finessing that.
The best way to get started with any of this, because there was a lot of no's at the beginning of this, the best way to get started with video is actually shooting video. Turn on your phone and start shooting some stuff with your products or your services, or take it outside and capture. The best way to start is to start. So I would challenge everyone to say, great, I am going to post an Instagram reel. The only way you're going to learn how to post, to get an Instagram reel out there is to go through it. Watch some examples, look at what your competitors are doing, break out your phone and shoot one. If you hate it, delete it, but it's going to start becoming second nature to you. So you're not going to start as a pro. None of us did. You are going to develop these skills over time. It will get better. Sure, the first 50 will be really cringy, but there's no way to skip that step. There is no way to just accelerate like, hey, I'm going to get good right off the hop if you're doing it yourself. It's just not, that's not a reasonable expectation you should put on yourself. Just start.
On that thought, I'm gonna wrap us up because I think we had some great questions through this session. Just as a note that I like to remind people is that even just turning on your video in Zoom will sometimes help you get used to seeing yourself on video, because that's usually the biggest challenge that people have, is just getting comfortable with seeing themselves looking back at them. But for those of you who are in the room, I ask that you sorry, for those of you who are in the room, stick around for a few seconds. We can continue this chat for a few more minutes. For those of you who are watching online after the fact or currently on Facebook, we hope that this was helpful. Please reach out to us if you have any questions, comments after the fact, success@guelphbusiness.com, or you can catch up with 2H Media directly on their site, so 2h.media. So thank you, Aaron and Matt, and thank you for everyone who attended, and we'll see you soon.